What's up, Big Ten fans? Michael Dugan here from internsbigted.com. We got Week 5 predictions coming at you. First game, Indiana and Rutgers, the noon kickoff. This is going to be some ugly football, let me tell you. I think Indiana's got this one in the bag. I'm looking at that spread right now, minus 16.5 in favor of the Hoosiers. I think that's even gone up since the opening line, which I'm a little surprised people were buying on Indiana after their performance last week. But I have the Hoosiers in this one. I think they'll cover. Rutgers is just a whole new level of bad when it comes to Big Ten football. So I have the Hoosiers, and I think they'll cover as well. Another noon game, Central Michigan versus Michigan State in East Lansing. I saw Michigan State play last week. I was not impressed. I didn't think they were that great. I think their defense is really good. I don't think their defense is elite. I don't think they're 2013 level of defense. I don't think Brian Lewerke is all that. I think in terms of recent Michigan State quarterbacks since 2010, he could very easily be towards the bottom without counting Andrew Maxwell. But I think they win this game. I don't know what their ceiling is for this season. But they win this game regardless. I don't see a spread on that. I don't think there should be. Central Michigan is not a good team at all. Michigan and Northwestern at Ryan Field. I mean, Charlie and I have tried to predict Northwestern for about 15 years, and each year they seem to surprise us in some new way. And Michigan is a 14.5-point favorite right here. This seems like a game where Pat Fitzgerald can turn his program around given the circumstances. He's faced a game like this in almost every single season in the past half decade, and it seems like he's won more often than he's lost. After that Penn State game last year, they tore up the rest of their schedule. This feels kind of like that point. That last week kind of felt like that point coming off that bye week. I think Michigan wins this game, but I'm not surprised if Northwestern keeps this one close. I think they're better than losing to Akron at home. I think that goes without saying. There's a lot of talent on this team. But losing Jeremy Larkin this week to retirement, that's such a sad story. All the best to Jeremy, but losing him that's a big hole in the running game because he was their shining star really, and their one bright spot throughout the first 4 weeks of this season. And without him, they're going to be a lost cause. So I think I think Michigan wins. Do not quote me on that. Michigan's going to win this game, but I think Northwestern's going to find a way to stay in it for a bit. Purdue and Nebraska. If this ain't the most intriguing game of the week. In a super weird way, I don't know what is. I mean, obviously, Penn State, Ohio State is game day. It's prime time, and that takes all the marbles. But I am super intrigued by this Purdue-Nebraska game because I don't know. I know both teams are bad. I don't know just how terrible either one of these teams are. Both of them could go on to be 3-9. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Purdue could turn around and finish 7-5, 6-6, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. I think they have a lot of talent, just a lot of mental lapses, and Jeff Brom seems to have gained a little bit of frustration with this team lately. But look, I mean, you'd think Nebraska being at home would give them a little bit of an edge. That's not the case. They're 0-3. They've lost 2 games at home. I don't think they have a real home field advantage right now. That's no discredit to the fans. Those are some of the best fans in the country out there in Lincoln, but they're not playing well at home right now. They're not playing well on the road, despite only having 1 game on the road. I'd like Purdue going in there and winning this game. I think this could very easily be an ugly football game in favor of Purdue because Nebraska is lost as can be right now. And they didn't do them any favors getting thrown off week 1, going through the routine, getting to the stadium, and then not playing a football game. That threw them off a little bit, but now we're in week 5. That's no longer an excuse. And they're still not playing good football. And look, Jim Harbaugh lights up bad teams and has no remorse for that. And, he and Scott Frost played when coached against each other, rather, when Scott Frost was back at UCF. And Jim Harbaugh doesn't forget. And he ran up that score last week. But regardless, Michigan puts up points against bad teams, and Nebraska looked like a bad team last week. Good teams tend to defend Michigan well when Michigan has the football. Nebraska did not do that. So I like Purdue going in there and winning this game. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens in this game, whether that be a Nebraska 30-point victory or Purdue 30-point victory. Nothing will surprise me here. But I have Purdue going into Lincoln and winning this one in a pretty close matchup. Now the big one. I mean, this could very easily be the game of the year unless Auburn and Alabama each win out. Then the Iron Bowl obviously takes that cake. But this is very easily the game of the year because I could see both teams making a run at the Big Ten crown. And if that team has one loss at the end of the year, I mean, you can't say no to the playoff if they win the Big Ten. So Ohio State, Penn State, you all know what happened last time. I don't need to get into that. The Buckeyes right now are playing the best football in the country next to Alabama. I think those are the two most talented teams. Obviously, Ohio State's got a big distraction off the field with Urban Meyer, but a good friend of the show, Bill Bender, came out with a piece earlier this week that said it feels like Urban never left. We're going to leave that conversation out of these videos and out of the show for the time being, but they're playing tremendous football, and they have weapons galore, and I just don't know Penn State has the leadership and the capability defensively to keep up with the playmakers of Ohio State, the experienced playmakers of Ohio State, because usually we see these top Ohio State guys, excluding Ezekiel Elliott and JT Barrett, most of them are around and really relevant for a season because they spend 2 years learning beneath Ezekiel Elliott and JT Barrett like Dwayne Haskins has, and some of these receivers under Devin Smith in the years past. And they're here and they're in Columbus for a year, maybe two, and then they're off to the NFL because they learned 2 years as 5-star recruits under other 5-star recruits, played for a season, developed, and left and got drafted in the first, second, third round. So these guys, Paris Campbell, J.K. Dobbins, Mike Weber, all experienced. That offensive line behind Michael Jordan, which is still my favorite name in the Big Ten, is playing great. And with Bosa hurt, obviously that's not helpful to them at all. But I don't mean to seem like he's a plug-in, you can just plug somebody in for him because he's a tremendous talent. But look, he's replaceable to an extent on that defensive front, and I think that offensive line for Ohio State can get enough push, and they have enough speed on the perimeter, and Haskins is a tremendous passer, and they've got two tremendous running backs. I don't know that Penn State's defense can hold enough to keep Ohio State down. And I have to go with the Buckeyes right now. They're favored on the road. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be a great football game. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is going to be a good game. But I have Ohio State. I just don't see enough from Penn State. I've seen the scores. I know James Franklin runs up the score. I don't buy into the numbers. You know me. I watch the games. I tell you what I see. I don't see enough from Penn State to show me that they have what it takes to go punch for punch, pound for pound with Ohio State for at least 60 minutes. If they do, I'll say I was wrong, and I have to give credit to James Franklin. But right now, going into this game, I just don't see the talent, the experience, the speed on Penn State matching up with Ohio State. I just don't. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This went a little long this week. Decided to go a little more in-depth because there are a handful of teams on a bye. But we will catch you guys on the podcast on Monday.